Hey everybody, welcome back. Thanks for joining me again. Sun was out here today. It's been out the last couple days. I know this is not an easy time for everybody, but I think things are looking up. I'm hoping all of this changes quickly and the sunshine really does make a difference in one's attitude. So I want to backtrack a little bit to video. I think the video number was 64, talking about leaving when your children are young as opposed to when they're older. I failed to mention something, and what I didn't talk about was that when my children were small, I actually didn't think about leaving. Divorce wasn't on my radar. It wasn't in my vocabulary. It wasn't in my thoughts or my mind. That's not criticism for anyone who might be there right now. That's not to say that if you are there and your children are small, that's not, okay. I was just still blind to this whole narcissism thing. I was blind to what I was actually dealing with. And in my mind, I thought I could fix it. I just spent years thinking this was something I could fix. I just needed to work on myself and blah, blah, blah. You guys know the whole story. When my children were small, that just wasn't on my radar. That also adds a degree of difficulty in answering that question for me, because it wasn't something that was even a consideration for me. That didn't come until much later on. In my mind, I thought my parents have been married for years. That's just how this goes, good or bad. You stay in it, you fix it, you work on it. At the time, that was my measuring stick. And I saw the frustration that my dad dealt with and what he put up with in his marriage and all the frustration and everything. Well, I thought, well, dad does it, I can do it too, whatever. I didn't see the parallels. I didn't see what was going on. I didn't know that my mother and my ex were narcissists at the time. None of that was in focus. None of it. It wasn't on the radar. And then finally, when it was much, much later on, when I was on my, I think, third therapist and I was bawling my eyes out, I couldn't stop crying. He's like, "You're grieving your marriage. This is what's happening right now. You are in the process of grieving it." He was absolutely right. There was one or two things that he really hit on, and that was absolutely one of them. I was grieving my marriage during those years. The kids were older. A lot of time had passed. A lot of things had gone on. A lot of fights had taken place. Turmoil and headbutting, you name it. And I was grieving my marriage during those years because I knew that I had done everything I could. I knew I exhausted all of my efforts. Try to make it better, to try to improve it, to try to fix it, to try to do what I could to guide us as a couple to where we needed to be. And it was pointless, it was fruitless, and it was over. When my children were young, I was blind to what was happening. And if you are there and you're seeing it already and you have already recognized what is happening, then absolutely you have a decision to make. If your children are young and you know you're married to a narcissist, there's definitely a decision to be made there. And it's not an easy one. I appreciated all of the comments that were posted in that video, all the comments that everyone leaves on every video, because they're worth their weight in gold for anybody who might watch the video and not only take what I say and my experience, but add into all of that everyone else's feedback and everyone else's experiences and their opinions on how they dealt with this particular situation that I'm covering. It's worth more than anything I have to say when you throw all that in there. So I appreciate everybody's comments and everybody's feedback when it comes to things like that. But yeah, I was still looking at fixing things. I had no idea what I was up against. Years later, when I was there with that therapist, bawling my eyes out, just crying and screaming and angry. I was so stupid. How have I been so blind? How did I let it go on this long? You all know. He told me, stop that. He told me, stop beating yourself up. Stop being angry with yourself. You were raising your children. You didn't see this. You didn't recognize what was happening. You didn't see how you were neglected in all of this because you were raising your children. You were focused on being a mother. And that was the one thing, well, that's a whole nother can of worms. I agreed with him. He stopped me dead in my tracks with that statement. And I realized, yeah, I was so focused on trying to be a good mom, balancing out that negativity that he brought to our parenting. I just wasn't seeing it all. I wasn't seeing the whole picture. I just felt that it was important to amend that video by letting everybody know that question is all the more difficult for me to answer. Because when my children were small, I wasn't thinking of leaving. I wasn't considering it, only because I was still blind to the narcissist. I was blind to the behaviors. None of that had surfaced yet. And I was still very much in fix it mode. I can handle this. I can do this, whatever. Another thing I wanted to kind of amend, I think it was the video right before that one about financial abuse. So I was talking about finances in that video and talking about how money was no longer an issue, and it just wasn't the topic of every single conversation every single day once I left the narcissist. I have to amend that by saying that because he dragged his lousy feet throughout the entire process, that towards the very end, yes, I was in debt up to here because of the divorce. The legal bills were just ridiculous, and he must have really enjoyed that because he had his share. The legal bills really got out of hand. That did result in a mound of debt for me that I did later address. I could do like a little financial video on that as well, but I won't because I'm not a financier. I am not an accountant. I'm not any of those things. You know, that all worked itself out. That's all fine now. But yes, I did have mounds of debt towards the end, towards the very end of things. But my point was that, you know, I went from being in this relationship where we had two massive incomes. You know, he was 6 figures, I was running the business, and he did nothing but complain about money, and there never seemed to be enough because he was a financial moron. Anyway, I needed to backtrack on that and correct that as well, because yeah, towards the end I had massive amounts of debt due to the divorce. But I wanted to address those things because as I've said before, I will always share openly and honestly. I don't want to be misleading. I want to be forthright in what I say and what I share, because that's how we help each other and that's how we learn from someone else's experiences. It's not going to help anybody if I stand here and sugarcoat things. I think that about covers that, but I wanted to go and talk about those couple of videos and those couple of issues that I felt I left some things out of. If you haven't gotten your copy yet, it's available on Amazon, on ebooks and paperback. And thank you so much for the feedback that I am getting. Some of you are kind of emailing me, contacting me while you're reading it and asking questions and commenting and things. And I appreciate that. And I will openly answer anything and communicate with you about it. I have no problem at all because now I'm just an open book. But yeah, I'm going to be doing kind of a fun thing. So if you send a picture of your copy and where you're reading it, kind of a fun, you know, where are you reading your copy of Narcissist? I'll probably be sharing that on social media, whether it be Facebook or Instagram or both. You're welcome to do that as well. I appreciate everybody's support. Everybody hang in there. I know this is a really trying time. I think the weather improving for some of us in the regions where it's been a little bit cold is going to help a lot. You know, get out, get some fresh air. You know, even if you just sit outside, if you're taking a phone call, take the phone call outside. You know, read your book outside, read your magazine outside, you know, whatever it is, it helps. Clears your mind, makes you feel good. Need a little bit of sun, use some sunblock. I'm a huge advocate of sunblock. Get outside, get some sun, get some fresh air. It will, you know, it'll help a lot. Everybody hang in there. Thanks for your support. Thanks for watching. I'll be back really soon with more videos. Ciao for now, everybody.